if anybody was wondering around you whether you would oppose something that Donald Trump did, this is the perfect opportunity to show them that, of course, it's possible. This is like a no-brainer. Donald Trump is appearing to support an assault weapons ban, and based on his statements, I'd say he does. And there are possible explanations for it that could go into some. Everybody uses the 4D chess analogy, which is, there is a 4D chess explanation to this. It's just simply it's not worth it in my opinion. In my opinion, you don't need to do 4D chess when it comes to the Second Amendment. All you have to do is say, well, I'm the chief executive. This is the federal government. I don't think that this is the correct solution, and I believe in the Second Amendment. If that's what he believes, but if he doesn't have a strong conviction that the Second Amendment is really one of the most basic rights in the Constitution, that's why it comes right after freedom of speech. Then it's pretty clear that Trump is willing to play politics with the rights of all gun owning Americans. And like I always say, I don't think everybody should own a gun. I think a lot of people probably shouldn't. But I also believe, and this is where I stand, as my principle. Uh, More laws are not going to solve the problem. Okay, if they were, then the original assault weapons ban would have prevented the school shootings that came afterward, such as the Columbine shooting. That happened while there was an assault weapons ban in place. One of the weapons that was used in that was the high point carbine, okay, which was produced as a result of the assault weapons ban because it technically did not constitute a assault weapon. Okay, it was actually used by several school shooters or attempted school shooters. So I'm sorry, but I don't care if Donald Trump supports this. I don't care if even if Rand Paul supported it, which I don't see any position on him just yet position of his just yet. But this photo where he's sitting there smiling with Dianne Feinstein, who I think was one of the primary sponsors of the original assault weapons ban. Uh, you know, it's fine to have these meetings, but ultimately, I don't see anything to gain from this. He says, Dianne, if you could add what you have also, and I think you can, into the bill. So she does want a full assault weapons ban. And what could happen from now until then is that whatever resolution gets taken up in the Senate could delete her language. That would be hilarious. Um, I think that the way that this could get torpedoed is actually in some of the states where there's Democratic senators that are vulnerable. Um, you could see a number of the Democrats, such as Joe Manchin and and Heidi Heitkamp, who, under pressure right now to get reelected, are not going to support it because their constituents would oppose it. West Virginia and North Dakota are very strong Second Amendment states. John Tester in what is it, Montana, Claire McCaskill in Missouri. Those states, that's four people I'm predicting could probably cross over and oppose it just to save their own skin, which would be really something. It would probably subject them to some problems with Democratic donors, for example. It would be a huge embarrassment to the Democratic Party if that would happen. And then then if that would happen, you could call it 4D chess. It's not 4D chess unless that actually does happen. What it is actually what many people are calling it. It's a betrayal of Trump's voting base. It is, and that would include. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm the biggest gun nut. I own like one. I own one firearm. Okay, um, but the current climate in the country as far as the gun control debate is actually driving me closer and closer towards just buying more. or joining one of these organizations. I don't think it would be the NRA. And you know that I hate joining organizations, but they have actually done the utmost in their power to make the NRA seem even more attractive to people who are considering joining it. And the idea that this is time for compromise and to do the best thing to help solve the crisis, that's a manufactured mood. That's a mood manufactured by the media, and Trump is complicit in that. He should have come through after the shooting and said, "Look, I will listen to all the people affected by it, and I'll listen to them equally," instead of saying, "I'm not going to." Instead of allowing the media to inflate the importance of and some of the shooting survivors, and you know who I'm talking about. Instead, he he would have said, "I think that all the survivors and all the families, they have an equal right to talk to me, and those that want to turn this into a political cause, again, I only take their criticism equal to that of the other people involved in this debate." So, why am I bringing South Africa into it? Well, on the grand scale, people are saying, I've actually had conversations with people saying, well, all your argument is that there's a slippery slope. Slippery slope doesn't mean anything. You could say slippery slope in terms of any law. Well, is that not true? If you're looking at South Africa, which for years started with an affirmative action, it started first of all, it started with the end of apartheid. But everybody in their right mind knew that economically apartheid was unsustainable. The reason apartheid ended was because it was eroding the economic viability of the country as it was. So they caved. And that's besides the moral problems with a state that was based entirely on racial discrimination. And what if somebody of the liberty mindset would have been in charge of the country, what they would have done is not implement all of these laws that are corrective, that attempt to correct the past, which you can't do it. What they would have done instead is create some sort of the Truth and Reconciliation Committee was a good idea. That's what happened over there. But what they would have done was to devolve more power to some of the states within South Africa, make it really, you talk a lot about a rainbow country. That's what South Africa was talking about in terms of races. But South Africa is actually different in terms of regions. And the Eastern Cape would have been able to determine its own path, and probably as these provinces or states would have developed more autonomously, you wouldn't have this central power that's been developed over there. The Jacob Zuma scandal, those of you that don't know, was due to a some relationship with these bankers, these Indian. I think they were some business moguls, and it says here the Gupta empire crumbles in the wake of Zuma's departure. So Zuma and the ANC, they were both parties that Zuma and the ANC. The ANC is the African National Congress. They are a party that contains the South African Communist Party. That's part of the ANC's umbrella organization, and they have a number of other organizations that are part of them. So the company was once at the heart of the mining to media empire established by the Gupta family that has been embroiled in South Africa's biggest political scandal of the democratic era. Now its abandonment epitomizes the three Indian-born brothers' dramatic fall since Jacob Zuma lost a power struggle in the ruling African National Congress and was forced to step down as president this month. A coal mine that was acquired by the family from Glencore, the Swiss-based group, 2 years ago, went into administration last week. According to company records, 7 other Gupta-affiliated businesses have also filed for administration, including the company owning Sahara's building. Even the family's private plane has been caught up in the saga after Canada's Export Development Bank, which funded the Bombardier jet's purchase, The Guptas rubbed soldiers with the political elite for years after moving from India to South Africa in the early 1990s. After Mr. Zuma took office in 2009, they became associated with a string of scandals as allegations swirled that they used their friendship with the then president to influence political appointments and win state business. Duzane Zuma, the former president's son, had holdings in and was a director of several Gupta companies. Police raided the Gupta's mansion in Johannesburg on Valentine's Day, stunning South Africans almost as much as Mr. Zuma's own dramatic resignation later that day. So you can see pictures of him, and I think that's his. Well, that I guess that's one of the other ANC politicians, Naxalo Kivit. And let me see if I can show some video of this. I don't really have audio here, but yeah, whatever. Look, why am I bringing this up? Well, Donald Trump has rubbed shoulders with people at the highest rungs of power for years, and he probably thinks, well, if I give in to this law and give in to the Democrats, give in to the state, they will cut me some slack and lower some of the heat on me in terms of just going after me for every little thing that's going on possible. And in the short term, I think he could gain some traction with that. First of all, by having Dianne Feinstein smiling and laughing, that actually angers Democrats, or because they are already so brainwashed into thinking any sort of interaction with Donald Trump is sort of a collaboration with a Nazi, that it's going to hurt Dianne Feinstein, who's already hurting, by the way, in California. Her endorsement from the party didn't come through. She's going to have to sink or swim in order to even survive over there. And the Democrats as a whole look ugly in this. If they go along and this becomes sort of this theme during the midterm election, that we want more gun control, right? Well, all Trump has to do is come back on his campaign trail and say, oh, I did compromise with you, right? I passed this assault weapons ban or whatever. That's where the smart politics comes in. It's not smart policy. It's not smart policy because, as shown in South Africa, as shown or all around the world, the more power you concentrate higher to the top, higher at the federal level, the more potential you have for corruption. That's how this scandal with the FBI has happened. You have Nellie Orr, who is the wife of a Justice Department official who worked for the organization that put together the Trump dossier, was not disclosed. Her salary was not disclosed. Okay. I think that he also had some sort of issue with his disclosures, household disclosures. You have to disclose that on federal forms. So that's corruption. There were political contributions to the campaign of the wife of Andrew McCabe. That's the deputy head of the FBI. That was not disclosed. So these things are happening with people who are not elected officials. They're just federal officials. They're appointed officials who are hired. They're full time. They're not dependent on who's the president or not. And the more power you give to them, the less they have to feel the pressure when it's discovered that they're doing something shady like this, because all they have to do is talk about how they are basically enforcing the law, and that they're already doing it. When did you ever see before this trend where you have Democratic politicians and Democratic friendly media talking about how the president is attacking law enforcement? How can he attack law enforcement or whatever? President Obama attacked law enforcement all the time, right? It's the same thing. It's just a different level of law enforcement. President Clinton, his stooges also, they attacked law enforcement. They attacked members of the Secret Service and the FBI for being in their minds in the bag for former President Bush, the Bush Senior. So now suddenly the media is saying, well, federal law enforcement, the FBI must be they must be kept out of politics or whatever. They didn't keep themselves out of politics. That's the problem. And what happened in South Africa, by the way, in South Africa, uh, own law enforcement groups, they were accused of inserting themselves into politics by Zuma supporters. Happens to be that Zuma was indicted. It's been discovered that yes, he was having corrupt dealings. So I'm sorry to tell you, but yeah, this is definitely a time to say we're going to support uh, candidates that oppose this policy of Donald Trump's. And if Donald Trump keeps persisting with this, um, this is a huge problem going ahead into 2020 when he's going to be up for reelection. The Second Amendment is not an issue to be trifled with in terms of this is good, this is 4D chess. No, Second Amendment is not 4D chess. The Second Amendment is part of the Constitution. There doesn't have to be any debate over it. The debate should be over how to safely secure the schools. If you keep the guns themselves out of the schools, or you dissuade people from committing acts of violence against schools, then that would be progress. To to violate the rights and infringe on the civil liberties of all Americans will not solve the crisis. In fact, it will probably cause other problems. It will probably cause more people to lash out against this. This will actually inflame the gun debate even more. And this is from somebody who doesn't want that to happen. But that's about it. Please comment below. Let me know what you think. Subscribe, share the video, and I'll talk to you guys later.